Stardust, Chapter 25, Part 2. 10:45 a.m., May 7, 2015, Stardust Labs.
I promised that I would help.
Twilight thought as she rubbed a hoof against the side of her head as she stared down at the diagrams that Moira had left her. Her gaze then drifted to the small piles of half-drawn spell ideas, then to the bank sheet in front of her.
I just don't know what I can do. As purely theoretical exercise, I would love to try and figure something to counter golems, but my friends don't have the time to wait for me to think of something.
Twilight berated herself and began to rub both sides of her head with her hooves for several minutes. When she opened her eyes, she saw that her wandering thoughts had transferred to the pen and then onto her paper. The first doodle was a terrible caricature of a cyber disc, and the second was a stick figure of Twilight zapping the cyber disc with a beam helpfully labeled magic, and the third picture was of a cyber disc-shaped pancake complete with syrup.
That is so not helpful.
Twilight moaned, and her face met the desk with a dull thunk. She was saved from her unproductive moping by a visitor as the door whisked open.
Hello.
The unicorn greeted energetically, though the word nearly caught in her throat when she saw that the person visiting her wasn't Shen, the scientist, or any of the friends that she wanted to see.
Don't be like that, Twilight. Friends shouldn't have favorites. How are you doing, Mr. Zhang?
I am well, thank you for asking, he replied politely, and Twilight had to force herself not to stare at the scar running along the side of his face. Mr. Harris sent his apologies. He is currently unable to visit due to his duties, but he asked that I visit in his place. Twilight tried to smile, but that placid look on Zhang's face was making the hair on her back stand on end.
That was very thoughtful of him. I know he's been very busy, so I don't blame him for not having the time to come and visit. I have Lana's cards if you'd like to play a game. I was needing a break anyway.
I wasn't aware that you still had her cards, so I brought something new, Zhang answered as he raised a box before moving to Twilight's guest table. It's a game called Dominoes. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't. How do you play?
Twilight asked as she pushed away from her desk to join Zhang.
Why does he make me feel uneasy? I shouldn't feel this way. He's Matt and Lana's friend, and mine too, right? Is this a card game or something else like Jenga?
Zhang shook his head as he opened the box to reveal several small white tiles marked with several dots. Something else, in fact. A game of dominoes involves the players taking turns, placing the pieces so that the similar number of dots are touching. A piece with 6 dots must be touching another domino with 6 dots. We play until one of us has no more pieces, or cannot place another piece.
Well, that sounds fun,
Twilight said enthusiastically, and she smiled at Zhang. Zhang's response was a complete lack of response. He didn't smile back at her, and his eyes were unreadable. Without another word, he emptied the box onto the table and shuffled the pieces, then took several minutes for himself. I'll play the first piece, he said, and placed a domino face upon the board. The pair went back and forth, and the single piece blossomed into a growing pattern of pieces as the game went on.
Come on, Twilight, think of something to say or ask. This is getting awkward. So, do you play dominoes very often?
Twilight asked hopefully. Not so much anymore. My parents and I would play when I was younger, Zhang replied. It started with a warm tone, but chilled quickly, and his expression darkened slightly as he finished. Twilight phrased her next question carefully.
Do you not play with them anymore?
No, came the clip response.
Can I ask why?
Twilight asked timidly before backpedaling.
I don't mean to pry or anything, it's just that it seems sad that you found something you like to do with your parents and you don't get a chance to do it anymore.
Distance and occupational hazards, Zhang replied after a long moment.
Occupational hazards?
When one is in the business of acquiring things that are not for sale, it is natural to attract enemies. Those enemies are not above applying pressure to family members to get what they want or as an act of revenge.
Acquiring things that aren't for sale? He's a thief?
Twilight had to struggle not to gape at the man.
That's nice, I guess. Do you know when Matt or Lana might be coming? Smooth subject change, Twilight.
Miss Jenkins's injuries were quite severe, so I do not know when or if she would be able to visit. Mr. Harris's schedule is significantly tighter for the moment due to his new duties, Zhang said. His tone still remained neutral, but Twilight couldn't help but detect a small amount of annoyance in his voice.
Oh, I see.
Twilight tried not to sound disappointed or desperate for other visitors.
When Matt and I spoke yesterday, he did mention that he had a lot to do because some people got hurt. I hope they get better. Wait, I tell Matt that I'm not ready for a relationship right now and he suddenly starts sending someone else to visit? What if he really wasn't okay with it? What if he doesn't want to be friends anymore and he just couldn't say it to...
And did he mention the people that died? Twilight's panicked train of thought halted.
Died?
She whispered, and she turned her wide-eyed stare on Zhang.
People died?
The soldier didn't look up from his dominoes, but he began to speak. Jack Anderson, Donald Henderson, Kevin Halverson, Holly Beecham, Aaron Enderton, Mitch Johnson, Mary Payne, Josh Halverson, Kenley Butner, Brad Green, Richard Thacker, Kaguya Amanda, Rosa Rodriguez, Simon Alvarez, Johannes Brunick, Anna Gulabeva, Anton Backer, Laura Harper, Ibrahim Ghaffar, Yaron Dam, Ernesto Soto, Hao Chang, Jessica Wright. At first, Twilight didn't understand what he was saying, but after a few seconds of realization, that finally dawned on her.
Their names. How many people died? Oh, Celestia, so many names.
For a brief moment, Twilight recalled her reaction to the book before mentally reprimanding herself.
You stupid fool! How could you compare what happened in a book to this? This is real.
Those are the deaths that resulted from the last mission. There are dozens, if not hundreds more from prior operations, and likely thousands from other military organizations around the world, Zhang explained, and Twilight could hardly wrap her head around the horrible truth. The door to her habitat opened and someone spoke, but she was too lost in her own thoughts to even look up and acknowledge the newcomer, or say goodbye to Zhang as he left.
They're dying. The humans are out there dying while I'm sitting here reading books and playing games. How could you be so stupid, Twilight? All you care about is getting home to be with your friends while these people are dying. I shouldn't be wasting time like this. I am Celestia's personal student and an expert on magic. I will not waste any more time until I can give them something that can help.
Twilight pushed away from the table and marched back to her desk.
I won't let it happen again. I won't. Won't let what happen, Twilight?
11 a.m., May 7, 2015, Stardust Labs.
Zhang, what the hell do you think you're doing?
Joel asked, and his expression waffled between anger and worry as soon as the door to Twilight's habitat slid shut.
We have been very careful to control what Twilight knows about the external world, and having her naivety shattered so casually might render her uncooperative or worse.
Zhang waited patiently for the doctor to finish his rant. Before he could reply, the door to observation opened, and Valen appeared.
He is doing what I asked, Dr. Mills.
Valen answered for Zhang, and the male scientist turned to glare at her silently.
Twilight has been very sheltered thus far, but she has always been extremely motivated when it comes to protecting your friends. I felt if we allowed her to come to the conclusion that her friends are in danger without her best efforts, she will be more willing and able to provide for them. I tried to approach the subject this morning, but was not successful, so I asked Mr. Zhang to step in. What his method lacked in finesse more than made up for with directness. You put her through that because you wanted results more quickly?
Joel asked incredulously.
To put it simply, yes.
Valen explained slowly, though it was quickly becoming apparent that she was losing her patience.
We need to develop countermeasures to the aliens and their technology, and while we might be able to rely on the practical applications of laser technology in a few weeks, or even the invaders' plasma technology in a few months, we have the potential to create something much more quickly that could save lives. We all know what's at stake, and now Twilight does too.
When Joel continued to glare, Valen's expression softened.
It's not a perfect solution, Joel. I'll be the first to admit that. All Twilight now knows is that the stakes for our fight are life and death. I suspect no further prompting will be necessary, and with any luck, this will motivate her sufficiently so as to spare her any trauma.
Joel's glare softened somewhat before he let out a sigh. I understand your reasoning, Moira, even if I don't like it.
Very good,
Valen replied before turning back to the observation room. The door was just about to close when the senior scientist shouted. Both Joel and Zhang stepped into the room to see what had just caused the outburst, and Twilight sat in the center of the room with a horrified expression on her face, and immediately across from her was Lana leaning unsteadily on a crutch under her one remaining arm. 10:51 a.m., May 7, 2015, Medical.
You can't see me. I'm invisible.
Lana had to stop herself from whispering the words to herself as she took several wobbly steps out from her bed to grab a crutch from beside Holiday's bed. The other soldier was asleep despite the daytime hour from either fatigue or medication, and didn't notice Lana as she brought the crutch under her arm and began to stagger to the exit.
You can't see me. I'm invisible.
Lana repeated her mantra as she approached the doctor that was seated by the exit. He was hunched forward over his desk and was in the process of losing a game of solitaire as the wounded soldier passed him and walked out the doors. He didn't even look up to acknowledge or stop her from exiting the medical wing.
I've got to find Twilight. Knowing Maddie probably chickened out, so I'll have to set things straight.
Lana thought as she wobbled her way towards the main elevator going down. She was just able to stagger into it as the doors closed, and no one questioned her as she got out onto the 3rd floor.
I just hope the guards let me pass. I don't have my ID badge on me, but they should recognize my face, right?
Lana shuffled her way down the hallways until the door to Stardust came in sight. Neither guard reacted as she rounded the corner, which she took that as a good sign.
They know me by name. I spent every available second down here. That's one hurdle I won't have to knock down.
She had just about reached the door when Joel passed her and spoke with the guards. They obligingly opened the door and Lana followed him in.
Well, that's a bit rude,
she thought as she saw Joel head towards the observation room without so much as a hello to her.
Doesn't matter. The goal is almost in sight.
Lana headed towards the habitat door only to flatten herself against the wall to avoid Joel as he rushed out of observation and into the habitat. He turned around after a quiet word to whomever was inside, and to her surprise, Zhang followed him out. Sensing her opportunity, Lana mustered as much speed as she could and slipped into the habitat before the door closed. Lana found Twilight sitting at her table with an in-progress game of dominoes before her, and her expression on her face made Lana die, just a little bit inside.
What happened? Oh, if Zhang said something to make Twilight sad, I am going to kick his ass,
she thought.
What I've got to say won't be much better for her. Pot, meat kettle.
Before Lana could speak up, though, something akin to steel entered Twilight's gaze and she pushed away from the table.
I won't let it happen again. I won't,
she declared as she walked over to her desk.
Won't let what happen, Twilight?
Lana asked tentatively and was rewarded with a bright-eyed smile as Twilight turned to face her. The expression only lasted for a second, as her eyes inevitably drifted to where her left arm used to be. The bandages and what was left of her arm were hidden in the baggy sweater that they had given to Lana to wear, but the sleeve itself was folded up, which made her lack of limb rather obvious. Twilight's happy expression dissolved into wide-eyed horror.
Lana? What happened? Are you alright?
Twilight started to ask, but Lana interrupted her.
I'm fine, Twilight. Well, as fine as I can be,
Lana said as she sank into one of the chairs at the table.
I just got a bit banged up is all. I'll survive. I just get tired a bit more easily, though, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm not the life of the party. But that's not important! How did that happen?
Twilight asked desperately, and Lana could see the unspoken question.
Is this my fault? I did something dumb,
Lana answered gently.
Your spell worked as well as we've come to expect, Twilight. It worked so well that some of my friends actually said that they wanted too. I hear that you're gonna be making some gear that will help with that, right? Did your friends die?
Twilight asked quietly, and Lana flinched at the unexpected question.
A lot were hurt. Don't lie,
Twilight commanded, and her lavender eyes were filled with anger and tears as she stared at Lana.
I'm not a little full. I can handle the truth. Just tell me.
Lana held Twilight's gaze for a long moment before looking away without saying a word, which elicited a quiet sob from the unicorn.
It's not your fault, Twilight. We all volunteered for this. And I'm quite certain that the ones who didn't make it back would think that it was a pretty worthy sacrifice. We put ourselves in harm's way to protect people. Occasionally, we get hurt. Occasionally, we die.
Lana's speech died out as she looked back to Twilight. Her gaze still had equal parts of horror and anger, and that small degree of steel as well.
No.
The denial gave Lana a moment of pause.
No? I won't let this happen again. I will not. I gotta think of something to help. I can't fix this, but I can make it better.
Twilight ground out her words, and she closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Lana nearly recoiled, but found that she could not. Both Twilight's eyes and horn glowed, and Lana felt a gentle but firm force grip on her right shoulder and wrist.
Twilight, what?
Lana started to ask before the force of her wrist lifted her arm out to her side. The glowing eyes crawled along the length of her arm, and Lana again tried to recoil.
What the hell is she doing? And those eyes?
Twilight's glowing gaze briefly traversed to what remained of her left arm, and just then, as quickly as the sensation began, it was gone. and Lana was released from the hold. Twilight turned away and marched towards her desk without another word, and her telekinesis grabbed dozens of blank sheets of paper, as well as several pens. Everything previously on her desk was swept off, and the unicorn began to draw at a frantic pace.
Twilight, what are you doing?
Lana finally asked.
I'm sorry, but I can't talk anymore today. I can't fix this, but I can make it better. Just please, trust me, okay?
Twilight answered quickly, and she didn't spare so much as a glance over her shoulder. Sensing the dismissal, Lana got the crutch under her arm again and hobbled over to the exit. The door hissed open to reveal Matt with his arms crossed before him while performing a decent impressing of Bradford's baleful glare. "How the hell did you get out of medical?" he asked as the door closed behind Lana.
That is a really good question. A cardboard box and good timing?